like the Palo Santo. And I am recording. Hi, welcome back to Chérie, It's a Process.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so sorry I'm yawning again. I thought I got all my yawns out before we hit record. I'm very tired. My whole body hurts. I did like the coolest thing ever yesterday.
Oh, true, you sent me pictures.
I did.
I didn't recognize you at first. I was like, why are you sending me pictures of your mum doing golf? Cool, but...
That was so cute. Yeah, basically, I went golfing. I mean, it was at the driving range, so I just hit a bunch of balls and like learned how to properly hit them with my mum. It was really fun. My mum's been obsessed with golfing for like a year and a half, and it's been time for me to also try it.
What's the verdict?
The verdict is that it's so much fun. It is very obsessive. I am going again on Friday. I'm excited.
You might be able to put some pictures out there of you. Because they were quite funny.
We'll see. There you go. That's how I am. I'm in pain and I'm tired, but it was so worth it. Anyway, how are you?
I'm good. It's definitely been a productive morning. I didn't oversleep. I managed to get up early and even go out and run some errands this morning. And then I rushed back, made myself a tea, came here. And yeah, I'm excited for this episode to see where it goes, to see what happens, and what you've brought for us today.
Pocket Magic.
And today's Pocket Magic is a book recommendation by a really cool author called Ellie Middleton. She's our age. She's probably like 26, 27 now. And she's written 2 books, which is really impressive. She has AuDHD, so autism and ADHD, and she's written 2 books about it. I have read one of them. I've read Unmasked, Ultimate Guide to ADHD and Autism and Neurodivergence. I can say that Unmasked is an incredible book. I have quite a few little post-its in there that I made notes and stuff. It is a really nice book. She's written it really well in a way where you can understand so easily.
Not too much information dumping.
Exactly. And it's not all scientific. And of course there's parts of that because kind of explain where things are coming from, but she does it in a way where you can really follow, understand, and you feel quite held by her. I don't know if that makes sense, but...
Okay. But I suppose this really leads right into today's topic then as well, doesn't it?
Exactly. Today's topic is my own personal diagnosis.
With AuDHD.
I got diagnosed about 6 months ago now. It was the May of 2025. It was quite a long process to get there. I did get diagnosed with ADHD many moons ago. Back when I was 12.
I actually had no idea about until quite recently.
But also because back then it wasn't really like a thing. I mean, what happened after I got the diagnosis was that I got like another 30 minutes to an hour on like tests, exams, and that's pretty much where the support stopped because they just figured, oh, that's just what she needs, so we'll just give her extra time. But it's so much more than that, and I would have needed a lot more support, especially in school. I was very bad at school. It's very stressful. Yeah. But let's start at the beginning. So I got my diagnosis paper back in May. I was reading through it and it was just a really weird feelings of relief, but also just devastation in the most dramatic sense. And it did make me cry. I was definitely crying. I wasn't even sure why I was crying because I felt like I knew all this time and it wasn't necessarily news, but seeing it on black and white was definitely intense. And it did make me question as well, as like I've been trying so hard to be normal under quotation marks, to just fit in, and then seeing it on black and white, I just wondered, was it all a show?
By the way.
In black and white.
In black and white.
Seeing it in black and white was just making me feel like, was it all a show? Did I just act like this all this time? I mean, it was my life I was talking about. It wasn't, it was many
Well,
different
it was a lot
feelings.
of probably relief and realization. I
Yeah.
suppose people that you were close to. I know you've been mentioning it to me for quite a while before you got the diagnosis. So I think the having the official diagnosis probably gave you that sense of recognition, but also I don't know if there was part of you that was denying it, because I definitely know in school there was always a lot of you were happy and bubbly and super outgoing, but you'd also have these days where or couple days in a row, where you just locked yourself in your room and you just kind of,
Shut down.
yeah, shut down and needed to recover.
Yeah.
Whereas in Paris, they happened once or twice, but never as intense as when we were in school together.
Yeah. School was a lot.
I think the masking was a lot more. Now looking back at it, it was very clear that there was quite a bit of masking going on. As you got older, I think you kind of accepted it more and you took the space and the time to see what your body needed and how you kind of reacted to a person. But then I think for me, it became very clear in it's now the last 3 years really, having these spikes between the really bubbly socializing side and the complete shutdowns. I think there was a bit more of a regulation going on.
Yeah. Something as I mean, I think what you're also describing there is my general healing journey that's been going on for a long time now. From family dynamics to daddy issues, under quotation marks again, to past relationships, friendships. There's been a lot of change and healing that's been automatically happening. I've definitely unconsciously started to unmask, especially with specific people in my life. And you were one of those people. And I had one other friend who, like, she called me when I called her to tell her about the diagnosis, and she was immediately like, oh, well, what do you need? Da da da. Like, what can I do for you? And I was just like, nothing. I am me with you. You are one of my closest friends ever. And I don't change when I'm around you guys. And I think that's also something you've definitely seen the last 3 years, is just me being able to be me, which I'm very grateful for as well, because there's not a lot of people I felt like I could do that. And more I'm learning to do that, no matter if it's a close person or not.
So how did it actually, the process of the diagnosis, how did it actually work?
So just before I go into that, I will be answering your question in a second. Just before I go into that, I do want to point out this is not a very easy topic to talk about for me, so I might not go into everything in detail. So the actual diagnosis process was 2 weeks, but I did it in Vienna. I came to Vienna for 2 weeks specifically for this process. It took 2 weeks, but I think it was 3 sessions in person that were each about 2 hours long, and 2 sessions. There was like a pre and a post session. I think those were online. Those were also about an hour and a half to 2 hours. But it was 3 sessions of doing tests and kind of playing games. I mean, it sounds nice, but it wasn't necessarily a game. It was just tests.
Neurological tests.
Exactly.
How you function.
Yes, I was exhausted after every single one of them. I would leave the doctor's office and I'd go around the corner to a cafe and recharge and get myself a cake. And just kind of like, yeah, recharge. Which was interesting, because then when I came in the next day, she would ask, well, how did you feel after? And I was like, I couldn't do anything else for the rest of the day. And she was like, okay, that's already a big indication for me. So that was interesting. I tried really hard, which, yes, was an indication as well. Most people don't have to try that hard, but I had to try really, really hard. And that's also why it was so exhausting for me. But it was cognitive tests, it was questionnaires, it was conversations with the doctor. She also contacted my boyfriend and my mum. From my boyfriend the last 3 years, got a bit of knowledge, and then she got some knowledge from my mum for like the rest of the years that I existed. Yeah. We also, so when I came to her, I had told her about the ADHD diagnosis I already got. And I came to her saying, look, I think maybe autism is involved, but I don't know. I've also been through a very traumatic work experience in the last 2 years. The nightclub and the bar work was very, very intense, and there were some very, very, very uncomfortable situations for me. So I did also come to her openly and said, maybe PTSD? I don't know. And she was like, we're just gonna check everything and rule out whatever it's not. That was the process itself. I got the official report and the official diagnosis about 3 to 4 weeks later. And yes, it was AuDHD. PTSD was not in question. She confirmed the ADHD from many, many years ago. And she did say that she also saw the autism. Although she hesitated giving me that diagnosis, which I thought was interesting. If you want to know more about that, I've actually brought parts of my report with me.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I was like, do you have some kind of examples or some kind of what type of tests you did?
Yes, I have one. There's a lot of numbers and very scientific things that I also don't fully understand. I'm going to go with this one first. So there is this test. I don't know what they called it. I wrote it down because I was taking notes and stuff, and I wrote it down as reading mind in the eyes test. So reading someone's mind through the eyes, that was kind of what I called it. And I thought this one was the most fascinating. And funnily enough, I don't remember a lot of the questionnaires and a lot of the tests I did, but this one I remember really well. The way it works was that I got a big pile of papers, basically. I don't know, it was maybe 15 or something. And each paper had a cutout of someone's eyes. So not the whole face, it was really just the eyes and the eyebrows. Around this cutout of eyes, there were 4 words, and each word was an emotion. So it could be guilt, happiness, sadness.
Right, was it just the eyebrows? So the mouth was covered, it was only the eyes.
Basically, someone took a photo of a person and they just cut out the eyes and the eyebrows. So there was no nose, no forehead. And from this image, I was supposed to find the most accurate emotion matching the eyes. Because this is how they test these things, is that they take like an average autistic person, an average neurotypical person, and then it's my results. An average neurotypical person that doesn't have ADHD, it doesn't have autism, or isn't neurodivergent in some way, can do, well, maybe there was like 30 of them. Let's say there was 30. They get about 26 correct. They do it within 2 to 3 minutes. And the way they do it is intuitively. So not systematically, they do it very intuitively. They're like, oh yeah, this looks like this, and next one. And within max 3 minutes, they're through. And they might get a couple wrong, but for the most part, they're correct. An average autistic person only gets about 21 correct, but they take over 3 minutes and they do it systematically, which is the biggest key in all of it. Because she asked me at the end when I was done, how did you do this? And to me, it was like, well, I eliminated. So I did it systematically. So I went through each image and I was like, well, it can't be guilt. It doesn't look like happiness. I'm not sure between those two, but this one seems the most accurate. And I did this with every single one. And I didn't think anything of it. To me, that was just normal, right?
How long did it
take? Right. How long did I take? So I got 28 correct, which is quite impressive. It's more than an average neurotypical and autistic person. But it took me 9 minutes, which is 3 times the amount a normal neurotypical person takes.
I sometimes wonder, that poor therapist, she's probably sitting there like, oh god, where are we at? What is going on here? I suppose it's also her job, like it's not...
It is her job. You don't need to feel bad for her.
When you told me, 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I literally took 3 times the amount a normal person does. when I saw this, it was so funny because she doesn't tell me what she's testing for. I wasn't aware that I was being timed. I wasn't aware of what the normal times are. I wasn't aware that there is 2 different ways of doing this, intuitively or systematically. She just asked me questions and she just gave me this thing to do. But then when I get the results 3 weeks later, I remember doing this and I remember answering my question, and then I see it in the result of like, oh, like this is what she was testing for and this was my result. It was kind of insane. You know, she doesn't tell me, obviously, so I just tell her what is normal to me, and I was just, well, that's just how I did it. I think this test is the perfect way to describe what is going on with me, of just me needing that time, me working differently on problems, which is not necessarily always a bad thing, because I think out of the box often, or differently than other people would. But it also takes me 3 times the amount of a normal person, and people never really had that patience for me. That was the biggest struggle in school for me, is that no one had the patience and I just had to power through. Yeah. When I was at Brockwood, I absolutely loved it because everyone was kind of like, do it in your own time. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just spent hours on hours on the things that I genuinely loved. I mean, there you go. There's the hyperfixation. If we're going to talk about that, there's the hyperfixation. But I spent hours in the dark room. I was obsessed. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it's also not necessarily great if I'm skipping lunch. So it has both.
Oh, we were young. We were teenagers.
Yeah. I mean, even now, though, I still sometimes do that. But I'm also an adult now. I'm better taking care of myself. And I make sure I'm like, okay, I need to eat. But I still get in those, especially with editing photos. Like the equivalent to my dark room when I was a teenager now is me editing photos on Lightroom. I could sit there for hours. I absolutely love it.
So funny. I hate it.
I love it.
Editing, I'm just like, ugh. I have this shoot. I photographed a friend's wedding that I have to edit, and I'm like, I want to obviously get them the picture as quickly as possible, but the idea of editing, I'm just
I'll do it for you.
Please.
Actually, I'll do it for you. I love it. All right. We're not talking about photography today. Okay, so I brought you some more numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I did these notes a while ago, so I'm also still trying to figure out what these notes mean. But what I can tell you is that scientifically, I have a likeliness of autism between 62.5 and 80%. What you can learn from that is, though, that I'm just at the cutoff.
How? Explain that.
Which means that a lot of my scores, like, they're right in between. They're not quite neurotypical, but they're also not quite very autistic. And one big part of that is I am very good at masking, as we talked about in the beginning of the episode. When you told me at school, I was very much masking a lot. And the ADHD basically cancels out the autism.
Mm-hmm.
So where the autism is kind of struggling and there's a lot of very autistic things, the ADHD steps in and goes, no, we're fine. We're just going to mask over this. And the other way around too. So where the ADHD is like all over the place, the autism steps in and is kind of, I guess, with anxiety and other things that kind of, one very good example of this is I'm a very outgoing person and I chat with anyone and anything. That's the ADHD. But I'm also a very, very socially anxious person, and that's the autism.
Which I thought was hilarious, because when we were in school together, that side of you was non-existent.
The social anxiety.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you come to Paris, you're suddenly like, oh, it's too scary to do this, and it's too scary. And you're like, I usually say that. What's going on? So those were kind of the first signs where I was like, something's going on here.
Yes. And at school, it was easy because there was a routine. There were so many parts of my autistic brain that it enjoys, like routine and safety and knowledge and knowing what's going to happen next, knowing what's going to happen in a PE class, knowing what's going to happen there and there, knowing all the people. That was great. So my ADHD was just thriving and all over the place. It was like because my autism felt safe and comfortable. But then my autism doesn't feel safe and comfortable. And then, yeah. constantly canceling each other out, constantly supporting each other. It's, in German, we would like to say Wirrwarr. It's just confusion everywhere. This is also why these scores are kind of all over the place, which is really funny because there is one one autism test, which is a questionnaire, which is called RADS-R, which stands for Ritvo Autism Asperger Diagnostic Scale Revised. The cutoff, as in if you have 65 points or over, you're considered autistic. I have 138.
I just hear the crickets, like, ain't this obvious?
Yeah.
The cricket, like.
So this is why it ended up being the reason that she did actually give me this, because there were a few things where I was like, okay, this is very obvious. But then there's another one where I'm not going to go into it exactly, but there was another kind of score. I think it was from a questionnaire, and this was specifically for women. So autistic women get an average score of 124, and neurotypical women get an average score of 91, and I got 118. So again, just under the 124, but also over the 91 of the neurotypicals. And it's that in between. That's.
But what does it mean if you're in that in between?
Well, it just means I'm not that autistic, I guess. Please don't come at me. But I mean, autism is it's a scale, right? Is scale the right word? It's a.
Well, there's a spectrum, but you told me it was a spiral.
Yes. No, that's the word. So autism is a spectrum, but people don't really say linear spectrum anymore. They say it's a circular spectrum. So if you have one of those circular graphs that look like pies.
Mm-hmm. Where is this going?
The idea is that it looks something like that. And that some people have more things in some pie slices. Some people are way more reactive on noise, and some people are way more reactive in social settings. And
oh, you're definitely reactive to noise.
Yeah, but compared to another person, I might actually not be very reactive at all. And again, with the ADHD on top, is able to mask so much of the autism. It's actually really funny. There's quite a few people. I'm not on medication. I've decided not to be. But there's quite a few people who have chosen to go on ADHD medication, and then their autism has come out so much. Where they're just this autistic person versus before that they were the somewhat normal ADHD person, and then their ADHD is like dealt with, and it's fine through the medication.
Somewhat neurotypical.
Yes.
And then with a bit of ADHD.
And then the autism comes out, and it's quite funny. Yeah.
Well, it's the perfect kind of thing of balancing each other out.
Yeah. And on a bit of a different note, I've been struggling with this whole diagnosis thing for many reasons, and I have quite a few people around me, not just random people who don't know anything, but also a doctor, him and other people in my life. They're questioning the idea of ADHD and autism, which is totally fair enough, and I think it makes sense. I also question it myself. They have different reasonings, which I'm not going to go into because they're their reasonings. My own journey with questioning it is definitely trauma. I grew up in quite a traumatic family dynamic, not violently traumatic, but emotionally and mentally. Young, when parents got divorced, another father figure, original father figure kind of far away, and step-siblings and weird family dynamics that were tricky and hard to understand, especially as such, like we're talking about 5-6 years old when all this happened. I think a lot of that is definitely able to be traced back to those situations and to those times. Some of it not, though. I think some of it just always was there. It's just also how my brain was wired. And then other things where I think they're way more extreme because of those family dynamics and the way I grew up. And I think through therapy and taking care of myself, I can function much better than I used to. And I already am. So lots of different ways of looking at it. And I'm really grateful for the diagnosis because it's made me really question everything. The diagnosis, myself, the way I react to things, that frustration I used to get when I wasn't able to do something.
I suppose it also gives you a bit of like, where you used to be questioning, why am I like this? Why am I not functioning? Why don't I understand this completely like everyone else does? I suppose it's also given you a bit of a, okay, I have autism and ADHD. This is why I struggle with this, and it's okay. I just have to do it another way, and that's okay.
Yes. And I'm also willing to learn now. I had a situation a couple months ago with my parents, my stepdad and my mum. I had said something and it triggered a whole conversation. Even a year ago or two, I would have flipped out and I would have been so angry and sad, and like there would have not been a conversation possible. Versus a couple months ago when this happened, I sat down and I listened. And even my mom was like, this is wild. This is like a whole new side of you. Because I used to get so frustrated and angry at why am I not able to function. Versus this time I came to the table and to this conversation going, I want to learn. I want to do things differently in the future. And I want to also be open to change. I think has been the most eye-opening part of all of this. Yeah. Oh yeah, and I don't know if I think I mentioned I wanted to go there earlier. I don't know if I actually did go there, but it was just before I started this diagnosis process. A couple months before that, I went on this yoga retreat with my mum, and there was an astrologer there. And I've never done an astrological reading. And he was talking about there being a huge contradiction in my chart. That's just clashing and clashing. My life goal in some ways is to combine them and make them work together smoothly rather than always clashing against each other and making these contradictory parts work together. And then a couple months later, I got the diagnosis of ADHD and autism, which is so contradictory as well. And I thought that was so fascinating. And it came up we did a human design reading a couple months ago, and something similar came up there as well. When it comes to, I'm a very alternative person. I'm a very spiritual person. I don't know if you've noticed yet, but basically I'm not going to be stuck on this one scientific diagnosis. The idea of contradictory things happening in my life and inside me and in my being, I have now seen it from, like, I've heard it from the outside from many different perspectives, and the diagnosis was just one of those. I don't see it as just that one change in my life.
Just a confirmation.
Yes, exactly. And I'm glad I did it, though. I'm really glad I did it. Something that my mom told me as well was that the report itself is the psychologist's personal opinion, which is interesting. Obviously, there are some tests and numbers you can't deny, but the report itself, she interpreted a lot of things in the way that she personally thought that made sense. Because it was kind of hard to read through this report at times. Hearing about me from another point of view and this person making connections where I didn't fully agree with those. I thought I had to believe that because she was a psychologist and she knows. But my mom did make me aware of, like, yes, but she's also just a human who only knew you for a couple hours and didn't know you for an eternity and hasn't seen you in every single situation, like, you know, you, for example, or my mom even.
Yeah.
It was a good reminder for me to then also just put the report aside and, like, not internalize it too much.
Yeah.
The aftermath was quite funny of all this because I really don't do it anymore. I've actually, now that I think about it, I really haven't done it in a while, which is nice. But for the last 5 to 6 months, I would do this thing where I was constantly questioning if it was the autism or ADHD in that moment or in any moment. Like, a conversation could happen and I'd interrupt someone. I'm like, shit, that was probably the autism this time. Or, I don't know, like, my brain was going crazy 100 miles an hour, and that's the ADHD. And then there were more finer moments where I couldn't quite tell it apart, but I was constantly questioning which part of me is that now. And now I've finally gotten to the point where I'm like, it doesn't actually matter. It just takes up brain space unnecessarily. It really, like, it doesn't matter. And I now know as well as if I'm not doing so well, or if I'm very anxious or stressed about something, it's probably because I haven't been taking care of myself. Like a great example, I went to the dentist it was 2 weeks ago. I was actually quite excited for it because it's for these braces that I might get quite soon. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, like this is going to be interesting. I'm excited to hear what they have to say. And then I'm on my way to the dentist and I'm texting my boyfriend, like, I'm freaking out. He was like, but you were so excited this morning. I was like, yes, but I'm actually freaking out right now. He was like, oh, okay, like, are you okay? He was checking on me. And then I go, oh, wait, I haven't really eaten anything today. And he was like, yeah, no wonder you're stressed out.
I think having that kind of routine, regulation, nourishing self-care does really help you also regulate the
nervous system,
kind of contradicting sides of it, and it makes it, you be able to handle it so much more.
Yes. And by doing my self-care, by regulating my nervous system, I've also definitely unmasked more since. And trying to be as authentically me as possible, if you call that unmasking, really showing up as I am in any situation that I'm in. Because before that, I was only ever in the situations I felt safe, I felt comfortable, I had my people around me. But now I'm trying to do that no matter the situation and the context. It's hard. But,
it's a process.
It is a process. How fitting.
Now you know why we're talking about this topic.
Exactly. It's me processing the diagnosis, me processing the aftermath of it. Honestly, I don't think I would have been able to do any of it without the support of all of you guys, my family and my friends. And I feel good around the people that I have now. It took a while to get there as well. And it's also been a process of all of this, I think. It's been finding the people that I feel comfortable enough with to be myself around. And one last thing I did write down, which I do want to share, is that it all making sense, and this whole process of the diagnosis and after, it makes me feel so much braver. And I feel brave because I'm like, wow, okay, I'm learning new skills here. I'm pushing myself, and I'm feeling good about that.
Yeah. I think I mean, you can't say your confidence has shot up because you've always been very confident, but
I've seemed confident.
Huh?
I've seemed confident. I've not always been very confident.
Yeah, okay, but confidence is the wrong word, but there's a bit more of a like presence, and you know what's going on. And
yeah,
I think since in this last kind of year, 6 months, it's been a lot more, this is me and I'm not apologizing for it.
Yes. I think you really, that's the nail on the coffin. That's it. That's the cherry on top. It is the...
I know you, honey.
Yeah.
You're present and you're unapologetically yourself.
Yes, that's it. Unapologetically. That's the perfect word. I think that's what the diagnosis gave me at the end of the day.
Which is a positive at the end.
It's a really big positive. Yeah.
Well, I think what we're asking you guys to do is to be unapologetically yourselves.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what that entails, but...
Exactly. And if that's the need of a diagnosis, then go do that. If it's not, then don't. Self-diagnosis is totally valid. And if that's what you need, then that's okay. There's no need for an official one. And also, even without any of that diagnosis stuff, and it's a broader thing of taking care of yourself and giving yourself what you need to be unapologetically yourself. For me, it took moving away from my boyfriend back to my own place again and following my dream of actually making my own business and being my own boss. And I can only tell you in a couple of months how that's going. But lots of those things, and all of those were really hard. Sorry?
This podcast is part of that.
This podcast, showing up here, moving through the motions of this, which I'm still in awe of us doing this. I'm very genuinely positively surprised. We just edited our first episode last week, and I'm amazed.
Me too. I was impressed. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, we did it. And that's part of being unapologetically ourselves, isn't it? It's like, I mean, we were lucky, we got a lot of support, but we also got a lot of questioning looks and people who love us and who don't really want to judge us and say anything, but they also kind of were. They were like, but we did it anyway, juggling all those things in our personal lives and this, and it's cool, and it's just showing up. It's important, showing up for yourself and others.
And I think with that,
I need to go eat something.
Yeah, with that, we love you, but we will leave you, and hopefully see you next week. Hear you next week.
Hear you next
week. Tune in next week.
Lots of love.
Take care.
Bye.